All right, guys, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto. I'm Crypto Dan Sean and Crypto Dan Ryan, and today we are deep diving in a groundbreaking project called zkLend, a platform poised to transform the DeFi lending through a powerful StarkNet zero knowledge proof. Fast, secure, and privacy focused, zkLend addresses DeFi's biggest challenges head on. We have Jane on the show. Jane, welcome to Dad's Gone Crypto.
Hello, Crypto Dads, Sean and Ryan. It's great to be here. Thanks
Hi,
for
Jane.
having
Great to
me.
have you. Yeah,
Great to
thanks a
have
lot
you.
for coming. So, Jane, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to building in the crypto space?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. I'm Jane, and I am one of the co-founders for zkLend, and it's great to be here today. A little bit about myself. I guess after college, like a lot of millennials, I went into banking, and I was an analyst for 2 years. And having majored in econ in college, I thought that was kind of the natural path to my career and just kind of working my way up. But like I think after my first year, I hated it. I just realized it wasn't the right environment for me. Like it's not. I don't know. Something just didn't click, and I decided that this was really not the path that I wanted to go down. And so I decided to join a startup, which at the time was still relatively small, called Deliveroo, which actually got pretty big. But it was really focused around food delivery. And the funny thing is, I was like, okay, I don't want to work in banking. I'm gonna go like open my own restaurant, and I'm gonna go like learn how to operate a restaurant, and therefore I'm gonna join a food delivery company because I want to learn about the logistics of running a restaurant, ops, POS. And I remember the first day of my interview, I applied for this job called operations manager. I didn't really know what it meant, right? Like I was like, okay, just get my foot in the door. I interviewed, and my manager was like, you're interviewing for like a rider operations job, right? Which means that you're going to be hiring all the riders, like all the guys that are going to be delivering food door to door for others. And he was like, have you worked with riders before? And I didn't want to like come off, um, uncertain about the company, right? I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to join this company. I'm going to open my own restaurant. And I was like, yeah, I absolutely know what I'm getting myself into. This is like what I've been wanting to do. And of course, like after I got hired, I was like, what did I get myself into, right? I'm like dealing with really wealthy. I was dealing with like wealthy bankers or like clients, and then like the next moment, I'm dealing with riders on the ground. Um, I'm like nothing wrong with that, and actually, I ended up absolutely loving it. I think it just gave me so much perspective around like different types of people that you work with, and being able to work with restaurants, riders, customers as well. It just I love and I really connected with my job. And I think also the workplace that I was in, really loved my colleagues. So that was really the first couple of years of my career. And then the company IPO'd in 2021. And as I kind of grew with the company, I realized I wanted to be somewhere that was smaller. I really enjoy the firefighting, boots on the ground mentality. And it's actually bad as you scale a company, right? Because you want to be very stable and you don't want to be reactive. But I really do thrive in like situations, what I've come to realize. So I decided, okay, I want to look for something smaller and I want to look for my next adventure. And I really kept an open mind in this one. Um, so I wasn't super early into the crypto space. I went in like late 2021, actually. So I'm actually a latecomer. But a lot of my friends, actually, my sibling also went into crypto a couple months prior. And they were like, Jane, you should just check this out. I know someone who's like looking to build a DeFi project. They're personal friends of mine. So like, and they're looking for like an operations person. So like someone who kind of thinks about like how things work, like what the product market fit looks like, stuff like that. And I was like, well, I don't really have any crypto experience, but down and check it out. And so, that was really my foray into crypto. And that's how I met my co-founders, Brian and Jonathan. And I was probably the slow one in. But that's how things worked out for me. And now I'm a total degen.
That
That's
is
great.
excellent. And I think you took some tips out of the book of Amy Cuddy, Professor Amy Cuddy, Fake It Till You Make It. It
Yeah.
wasn't something that you knew, but you fitted the role. And I think that's the beauty of a journey. It's like we think it's a destination, but it's actually the trail that we learn and we actually pivot into where we're supposed to be. And where you're supposed to be right now is at zkLend. So there's this company which you guys have started. It's changing the landscape in the crypto space. On Dad's Gone Crypto, we want to share insights of how, because when you talk to when you talk to old traditional investors, the gold investors, they're like, all right, why am I buying into this funny money? Why am I doing this
Oh
digital
my God.
thing? And then you got to try to teach them like, no, it's not just a token. They're actually creating change within the industry, real life change. And then it just goes over their head. So tell me a bit about your company. How did you have that aha moment with your colleagues, and how you're shaping the landscape?
Yeah. The amount of times I've heard the term funny money ever since I've been in crypto is just, it's amazing.
My dad still
Um,
says it. This is funny money. Can I touch it? Can I touch it? Well,
yeah. So, yeah, let me talk a little bit more about what zkLend is and what we do. zkLend is a lending protocol, or what we like to call a money market protocol, that is built on the blockchain. And specifically, we're built on a chain called STARKNET, which is a layer two solution that is built on top of Ethereum. So let me break that down for maybe some of the people in the audience that may not be super aware of what STARKNET is. So StarkNet is built on top of Ethereum because historically Ethereum is this layer one network where users can make transactions to one another. But because of high gas fees and network congestion, um, transactions are really slow and really costly. So, for example, if I wanted to send some money, let's just say $100 from me to crypto dad Ryan on the Ethereum blockchain, and he provides me with the wallet, it's probably going to cost me like 30 or $40 in gas fees just to send that amount over. And if I only wanted to send him like $40, I'm like at a net negative, like I don't even know how much, like net
Right.
negative
yeah.
$10 at the end of the transaction. And while this was okay at the beginning of crypto and blockchain because there wasn't mass adoption, now when everyone's trying to use chains like Ethereum and there's high network congestion, everything just gets more expensive and slower. So the purpose of layer two solutions is that it's kind of like something that's built on top of this layer called Ethereum. And what it does, it basically helps scale Ethereum. So networks like StarkNet can take hundreds and thousands of transactions and batch them into one proof and execute it on their own chain before sending the proof over onto Ethereum layer one. So, all in all, what it means is it offers the same user experience. It's much faster and it's much cheaper. And it basically utilizes Ethereum's underlying security because everything ultimately settles on Ethereum. So, that's kind of like the whole layer two and like why people go into layer two in the first place. I think there's this vision in the future that Ethereum's just going to be a settlement chain, and everything in the future is going to be utilizing layer twos to execute. So everything executed on layer two, and then everything settled on Ethereum. So
Okay.
basically, we're building an app or a program on top of this chain called StarkNet. And what it does is people can deposit their digital assets like ETH, WBTC, USDC, USDT DAI, the common ones, um, into our protocol, and they can earn a passive yield from it. And this passive yield is really derived from one thing: other people borrowing your assets. And it's important to know that other people who can borrow your assets can only borrow them if they've deposited more than what they're borrowing into the protocol.
Mhm.
And you might ask, okay, so why would someone like borrow less than what they've deposited? Like, doesn't make any sense, right? Because if you're in traditional banking, you just go to the bank and you ask for a loan, right? It's like, here's my credit score. Can I have 100 grand? But well, on the blockchain, I don't know who you are and you don't know who I am. So why would I just trust you and give you an $80 loan without any kind of collateral?
Mm.
And so that's the major difference between money markets on chain and money markets in the real, like in a real world scenario. You actually have to over collateralize your loan before you can take one out. So what are the use cases, right? Um, well, for one, if you don't want to borrow, you can just earn a passive yield on your deposit. But secondly, if you do want to borrow, you can take a short position on something. Like if you're long Ethereum, you can deposit your Ethereum, borrow some USDC, go outside, sell it for some Ethereum, and then redeposit it into the protocol. Now you're basically net short USDT and you're long Ethereum 1.5x, let's just say. So
Okay.
there are different actual financial strategies that you can craft with money markets. It isn't as maybe simple as people think. Oh, like why would over collateralized loans work? It doesn't, because there are different currencies at play or different tokens at play that allows you to shape like different financial strategies.
Jane, all right. So your platform has a borrow and lend function. Now I've got my one BTC, all right, that I need to wrap and send it over, but it's my prized possession. It's my it's my everything, right? Now I have to
It's a
take
lot
that
now.
and yeah, and put it onto your platform and pray that things don't get hacked or it goes missing. That's a real life fear. Dads are like, all right, or moms and dads are like, okay, let's put the money in, but who's this platform? There's so many cases of it being hacked or draining the wallets or draining the systems. Can you explain in a simple term what exactly happens with that? So, from a security protocol, I know you're using Ethereum security, but how do you ramp up your security on your side to make people feel at ease at using your platforms?
Yeah. I think I would think of security in a couple of ways. Number one is just like the reputation of the team. Um, Second part is just like code security, like how robust is your code. And then the third one is like risk parameters that the protocol has set. So let's just say your code is perfectly fine, but if you like kind of put a different setting on your protocol that like makes it very easy to game the system. Like for
Mm,
example, if you put very risky assets as collateral and you let people borrow whatever they want, maybe those meme coins like go to the moon one day and people like max out their borrow, but then the next day it's down like 1,000%. So the
mm,
protocol is left with bad debt. So that's the third part. But diving into the first part, I think the way we kind of want to position ourselves is, we are the money market protocol on StarkNet, and we want to serve as the foundation for all other activities on the network. Like we're not kind of the be all and end all. We just want to be a facilitator. And part of what I think is really important with money markets is you want people to feel safe,
mm,
not only as a brand, but like, you want people to know who you are. So our team is actually completely doxed. So everyone knows who we are. Everyone knows who our CTO is. I'm showing my face. My co-founder Brian also shows his face all the time, and we share our backgrounds, so people know exactly what we've been up to up until this point in our career and what we're working on. There's kind of no hiding, and it's our reputation on the line. So I think we obviously have skin in the game here.
mm.
I think the second part is the protocol's been running for like a year or almost a year as of May, and we haven't suffered any kind of security exploits, which kind of shows that we are a reputational protocol, and we're one of the first protocols that's being built on StarkNet. So it's kind of hard for me to say like we're really safe and then have you believe it. I think it's more like just look at the track record of the team, look at what they've built, look at how long they've been running for, and I think that's kind of the best way to really like showcase it.
Mm.
But yeah, and I think that's kind of how you would assess whether or not someone's code is robust. Like of course we're going to be audited. In fact, like V1 of our code, V0 of our code was formally specified, but I don't really think that means too much until like the protocol has gone on for long enough that like like people who are very experienced have used it, stuff like that.
Right.
um yeah.
One follow-up question to that. Is the assets insured in a centralized exchange, or is it totally a decentralized platform?
Yeah. So the platform is totally decentralized, and I think that's kind of what we do, right? Like if you want to do lending on exchanges, I do think that like different people have different priorities and they should go ahead and do whatever makes them most comfortable, right? So if you feel safe and you find the user experience of centralized exchanges a lot easier, then I do encourage you to use it. Not financial advice,
Sure.
but yeah, I got to be careful here.
Yeah.
um, but for me, like for people who do enjoy like holding custody of their own assets and being able to transparently see how their assets are being used, that's where money markets on chain play a role. Like our contracts are on a public blockchain. You can tell exactly what's happening to the money that you've deposited, whether it's being lent out, whether it's still sitting in the pool. And at any point you feel uncomfortable, you can just withdraw it. So I think that type of transparency, which is not unique to us, right? It's unique to every money market protocol on the blockchain. But I just think that by design, if this is something that you value, and decentralization is what you're going for, then like money markets is the place for you. Whereas if you value centralization and, in the case of like, in some cases, like you think that like convenience maybe is more important at this point than holding your assets and holding your keys, then maybe like Web3 isn't the place for you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with zkLend Alpha now on the mainnet, what have been your users' initial reactions? Have you gotten feedback? How's it running?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been about a year that zkLend has kind of gone live and taken real money and given real yield to users. And I think the feedback so far has been it's good. People find it, at the start it was usable, and then now it's like the user experience is nice, and hopefully in the future it'll be like it's really nice. But it's a work in progress, I would say. Now that we've built kind of the foundational protocol, which if you go on our app, you can just deposit I think 7 different assets now, and then borrow 7 different assets as well. I think people are asking like, what's next, right? Like, are you going to stop at that, or are you going to keep building new stuff? So, now we're at a phase where, okay, before we were kind of like not straggling, but we were like, okay, the network's not there yet. So we just want to build out like the foundation. We want to make sure like the most important features are there and like we're there to support. But now that the network has become so much bigger, people are asking for different things and different people are asking for different things. So like the more sophisticated degens are asking for things like yield farming, or they're asking for like vault strategies, or they're asking for something like transaction builders, so I can craft my own financial strategies in one click. So these are all
Okay.
kind of things that we're looking to build. But I think the key theme here is like the protocol needs to bend for different types of people. Like right now, it's kind of a one size fits all, but like because of the people that are coming in, it's starting to not fit everyone. Like it's not enough. So I think modularity, we're trying to like break it into pieces, and then like kind of mend it for different needs, is really the way I'm thinking about our way forward. But we're very much still thinking about money markets. We want to introduce more like long-tailed assets, so isolated pools, so like people can deposit maybe they're more volatile coins and they can borrow against it, but it wouldn't necessarily touch like a main pool of blue chip assets, for example, that we have going on.
Right.
So that's kind of one way I like to think about modularity.
So Jane, tell me about your scalability. You guys have been on mainnet for about a year now, stress testing the system. So myself and Ryan are on your platform now, depositing our money. But now the wave of the bull market. Now, if anybody wants to have a hair-raising moment, is when the bull market and retail gets in. It's just everything just pushes to the max limit. How is your system built that it can scale to that level, and can it cope, or can we expect like a glitch in the matrix?
No, because we're built on a network that's like specifically built for scalability. We don't have bottlenecks like transactions being stuck, and them not being added to a block. So there's no concern here around like the network not being able to handle these transactions on a protocol level, because it's all just code. There's no kind of need to scale, right? It's not like you're at a bank and you need like 5 bank tellers because there's 100 customers, but because it's Christmas and everyone wants to go to the bank. I don't know why, but maybe they do. You need 10. That doesn't really work that way in, I guess, in our world of like DeFi and blockchain. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? If I think about the size of our team, maybe on the marketing front we would need more as we scale, but if you're talking about this one single product that we have, we wouldn't necessarily need more developers, whether it's like 10 million or 100 million.
Okay.
So I think that's really the beauty of it. I will say though, it is important to look at kind of the size of the protocol relative to the entire network's TVL. Just because if you do have one protocol that like accounts for 80% of that network, that means that all the liquidity is concentrated in that one protocol. And that might be a risk because you always want to diversify and you always want to make sure
Yeah.
there's liquidity across different protocols in a network to make for a healthy ecosystem. So I guess that's the only bit about scalability that I would look out for. Well, not so much scalability, I guess like concentration risk. But otherwise, one more thing I wanted to add is the Ethereum upgrade, Denkin, I think, actually was just implemented a couple hours ago. And StarkNet is like one of the first chains to be able to adopt it. And gas transactions, as I'm seeing, went from, I think, about $2 to transfer something to someone down to like 0.04 cents. So
Wow.
it's crazy how this one change is going to reduce costs by that much. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Everybody's excited about less gas
Yeah,
fees.
right. Right.
Yes,
Please.
We got to hurt the last bull market with gas fees. So
yes,
Absolutely. So you mentioned that that you're looking to scale the project based on your users' feedback. You've been talking to people; they're looking for different ideas, different methods within the platform. So how are you getting that feedback? How are you communicating with your community? You guys on Discord, Telegram. Where's your chat at?
yeah, I would say it's mostly at Discord.
Okay.
Um, and it's funny because I'm such a millennial. I did not use Discord until I went into crypto, and it's like a very chaotic place for me. Every day I'm like looking at like in like the zkLend channel, but there's like 20 different chats that I'm looking at. I'm like, I'm not really sure what's what sometimes, but you know, it's not about me. It's about the community.
so
So Discord's the place to be. And fortunately for everyone, I'm not modding the channel. So our mods are really good. They have, they've been with us since the beginning. They understand our product. They understand how we've kind of evolved through the bear market as well. And they're in tune with the community. And something quite fun is that like in the bear market, I guess people didn't really like look at crypto, but we had this community. And like I don't think people were really excited about, putting money into any network for a while because of like Luna, Terra, and like FTX. And so some of our mods just started doing things like special Fridays and they'll just like do quizzes and hang out with people. And, like people will ask, it's like, when is this person's special Fridays coming back? And I'm like, well, you got to ask him. But I think what's really fun about it is like people actually just come to hang out. It isn't like
yeah,
just
Right.
about like, okay, complaints and what I want. People just kind of talk shit.
yeah,
Right. That's what I love so much about crypto because it's just a free for all the time. I mean, you're running a real business, and yeah, it's all about money, but at the same time, it's about the community and it's just about getting together and chatting and having a good time a lot of times
Yeah.
too. I
Yeah.
love it. I mean, in the real world, it's almost impossible to get the CEO of a company to, come into your chat and goof around, right? But in crypto, you can do it. So
Yes, you can. And I've definitely seen some very like degen ones too.
right.
the power of a community, hey, built in a bear market.
Right.
Jane, tell me about the Zen token, ZND. What is the need for a token in your world, right? Because everyone's like, oh, another token. Can you tell me why that you guys brought in a token and how does it affect the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of parts to it. And I think the first and the most obvious is just the value that it represents. We are a project that is built on chain, on StarkNet, one of the most cutting edge ZK layer 2 rollups out there, and we're the foundational DeFi protocol. So I do think that, this does represent something, and that it's simple as that. But the second part of it is, the token itself is a way for us to incentivize and create the right incentives for users using the protocol. And what I mean by that is, for our protocol, if you deposit, you'll earn a yield. And if you borrow, you'll have to pay an interest depending on the utilization rate of that pool. So the more capital that is drained from the pool, the higher the interest rate is going to be, because it's more expensive. Now there's less liquidity, and liquidity costs money. But let's just say there's a huge imbalance in supply and demand one day, and we're really in need of a lot of USDC because for some reason everyone wants USDC. How do we incentivize users to do that? We can use the Zen token to actually incentivize the right behavior and the right pools. And I think that gives us a lot more room to wiggle, and really be creative in the way that we engage users, reward them, and direct the right behaviors. And last but not least, I think just decentralization. Governance is something that we don't have set up yet. And most of the decisions that we're making as a team involves us just discussing, maybe talking to a couple of users, but really just taking a risk here. Maybe it's no different with the community, but I do think that having different people and different stakeholders opine into the growth of the protocol does help make better decisions. So, for example, if tomorrow I'm like, should we go on Scroll? Really, the decision is just up to like a very small team of people. But if you have a group of stakeholders that understand, hey, actually, I know the ecosystem of Scroll, I think it's great. That's why you should or shouldn't go for it. Yeah, I think that that should, like, the protocol's future should be in the hands of token holders, whereas we started it. Ultimately, the way the protocol goes, I want it to be decided by the community.
All right. So, Jane, now just so I understand in a simple based terms how the actual token works. So, it's not traditionally where you buy and you pay. It's basically you have a treasury system that allows that token to be rewarding users. Can you elaborate more on exactly how does that token fit into that ecosystem to change
Yeah,
behavior of your consumers to balance out the pools?
for sure. I mean, just now I mentioned the token represents some kind of value or some kind of the ecosystem and, like, our DeFi protocol. But I think more than that, we're able to reward different user behavior because there is a chunk carved out specifically for rewards. And actually, if you think about it, we've already rewarded our airdrop users in a way, and we've dropped them 4% of the total token supply for their early participation. So you can very much think of it as the same thing, except it's just structured differently. Now, instead of maybe airdropping to users, which is something that we're going to do again, we're saying, hey, there's $100 in this USDC pool, but the demand for USDC right now is through the roof, and interest rates are super high to borrow, and there's not enough liquidity in the pool. Now, what we can do is we can actually use Zen tokens to reward deposits on USDC so that we can drive up more supply of that pool because there's so much demand and not enough supply. So what Zen does is it really gives us a lever to intertwine kind of the supply and demand of different pools and really intervene when necessary and reward different types of behaviors.
Very cool. So you're earning basically double interest in the form of Zen token and interest in form of what you've basically borrowed, lent out.
Yes, I couldn't have put it better. That's exactly it. I don't know why I gave all that description.
Uh,
Yeah,
all
that's
right,
great.
perfect.
So you mentioned you're the first on StarkNet. Um, can you share maybe some alpha tips on farming Stark? The Stark
Yeah,
ecosystem token.
yeah, I got lots. I love this question. And it's my way to shill StarkNet too.
Great.
So, for those of you that maybe are like know about Stark or like the Stark airdrop, StarkNet basically launched a provisions program back in February where they, I think, shared 7% of their total token supply to an airdrop of, like, I don't even know, like 1.5 million wallets or something like that. It's like the biggest airdrop to date. And I think that definitely gained a lot of attention and eyeballs. But now that the airdrop is kind of done with, I think there might be another one because they said it was 9% allocated, but 7% distributed. So I think there's still 2% there somewhere that's going to be given away, but I'm not sure how. But they're also announcing something called DeFi Spring. I'm part of the DeFi committee, and part of the remit is to ensure that there's better liquidity on StarkNet. And part of like what we're doing about it is we're incentivizing liquidity providers on the network. How does that translate to users, right? It means that users who deposit into different DeFi protocols, whether they're DEXs, lending protocols, or even derivatives like perps and options, they'll be able to earn a share of Stark rewards given out by the StarkNet Foundation. There's 50 million Stark tokens that's actually going to be given out to users through protocols, and users can actually earn these rewards by depositing into DeFi protocols such as zkLend, other DEXs, um, even other lending protocols, as well as options and derivatives. So you just have to keep an eye out for when each round is and when the protocols are kind of doing their rounds. And you'll be able to see, like, if you participate in this pool, you'll get an approximate APR. So you can just kind of dig around and look at wherever has the juiciest rewards. I'm sure just look at the Twitters, look at their sites, and I think there's a lot of opportunity there. And if you're bullish about Stark, then what's keeping you from farming these rewards and then just keeping them for a later time.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully the whole audience heard that. If not, go back and rewind because there was some serious drop there. So rewind a couple minutes there and heed that advice.
Yeah. And I think by the time this recording goes out, DeFi Spring on money markets will already be live. So if you go on app.zkLend.com, you should be able to see the Stark rewards and the Stark APR on several different pools. And you can enjoy, some very juicy yields.
That's fantastic.
Jane, a question on that. Is there are you rewarded based on the amount of money you put into these protocols or lending platforms or borrowing and that, or is it just that you're participating in it?
Yeah. So, this is interesting. It's always going to be amount because they want to look at how productive your liquidity is, right? Someone who provides 1 cent and someone who provides $100, that $100 can be used for greater depth. And that's exactly the purpose of this program. It isn't really to onboard new users, although that could be like a byproduct of that. But the really real main objective is to deepen liquidity within the ecosystem so that when other users come in and use StarkNet, they don't suffer from like poor trading experience or like high APRs because there aren't enough deposits or there aren't enough liquidity in the lending pools. That's really the real purpose of the program.
Very cool. And you guys on your side have been running a airdrop. I saw that there was an airdrop 1 and an airdrop 2. So airdrop 1 is completed. Are you guys looking at an airdrop 2 for your community?
So we just airdropped around 4% of our total token supply to our users. Although it is vested, I will caveat it as that. But I think the intention is, we want to say thank you to our community for being there with us since the beginning. And I do want to talk about this a little bit more because we spent a lot of time and effort into designing our airdrop program. It wasn't so much like if you make a transaction on zkLend, then you're going to get an airdrop, or if you like get a role on Discord, you're going to get an airdrop. Frankly, that's not really what we stand for. We want to reward kind of our users that have been most productive to us, and we want to make sure interests align. So, like for our program, we rewarded users who deposited the longest and had like larger amounts, because as a lending protocol, if you're depositing $1 and you're taking it out 10 seconds later, that liquidity isn't actually going to get used by anyone and no one's going to be able to borrow it. And I think that's the fundamental difference between lending protocols and maybe DEXs, because maybe on DEXs you trade and they get fees. But for us, like what we care about is like the length of your deposit and the volume of it, because that's how you would really earn interest from like your deposits as well. And that's how we also earn from it. So I think that's very much emphasized. And then The other part is just how long your borrows are and the size of your borrows, because that's ultimately what gives us borrowing revenue as well. So I think that it's really important to show to users like this is what we value and this is only part one. But part two, I don't think it's going to deviate too much from it because that's our business model. And as we kind of intertwine more products in there, I hope that this kind of sets the tone for what we do and what we look for. And I don't think it's going to be too difficult to look for clues in terms of how we determine our next airdrop.
And
Fantastic.
are you disclosing when that airdrop is going out, or is it still
No, we haven't. I mean, we've started looking at the data, but I think the question is whether or not we want to go with the points program, frankly.
okay?
Yeah, I'm undecided about it. I think like yes, it's really nice. Um, but let me talk about our current airdrop. You know, we're dropping real tokens to people, and
Yeah.
we kind of didn't tell them how many points they got beforehand. Like it was really like, hey, here's our airdrop, and of course it's calculated based on points because we have to like kind of put some measure by it. But it was like, hey, here's an airdrop. Here's how many points you have. Like we're communicating it now, not like months before, and this is how many tokens that you're going to get. And I think there's something really something I really enjoy about that. It's upfront, whereas with points, it's kind of unclear what users are going to get out of it. So that's kind of my struggle with points. But don't quote me on it. I want to see where it goes. I know that it attracts a lot of eyeballs and attention.
Right.
Jane, I want to
Very cool.
pivot to two questions regarding your development in crypto. So, women in crypto, you guys are fairly rare, right? In the sense of being, it seems to be a male dominated industry. Um, for crypto moms out there and ladies out there that are thinking about getting in the space, can you just take them on a journey saying, like, how do they get into the space? And what are some of the things they need to look out for? And how do they progress in the space, especially being in a male dominated industry?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I still struggle with it to this day. It's tough when you go to a conference and you're just like, I went to this conference, Dev Connect, and don't get me wrong, I love the community, but it was like all male developers. And I didn't know, well, number one, I'm not a developer. So like, I didn't know what my place was there. But second of all, kind of being a female, it's a little bit weird. I'm not really sure how to approach people. I kind of became the awkward one. Um,
Oh,
Sure.
yeah. But okay, all things aside, I do think that I think that people build it out to be such a complex thing. It's like I either understand crypto or I don't understand crypto, and there's this like great big gap between the people who do and people who don't.
Mm,
And I used to be on the other side of it. I think just keep an open mind. I remind myself like I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a 50-year-old who like looks at like when I was a child who would look at a cell phone, who would look at the internet and be like the internet. Like I don't want to be that person. I want to be that person who understands the internet and who's like browsing on the internet. And so I want to keep up to date with everything. That's kind of part one of the motivation. And I think that should motivate other people too. But part two is it's really not that hard. It's clicking a few buttons. You can go as deep into the tech as you want to, but hey, if you just want to use a protocol, you're just clicking a few buttons. And
mm,
worst case scenario, which is something I've done, I just open a YouTube video and I rewind and I go really slow and I just follow it step by step on how to open a MetaMask, how to write down a seed phrase. Okay, now that I've written down my seed phrase, I need to fund it. Okay, so I need to maybe open a centralized exchange account and deposit into it and fund it, or maybe use my credit card to buy crypto. Day one, done. Um, Day two, maybe I'll learn a little bit more about AMMs, or I'll learn a little bit more about networks. What does that mean? Um, oh crap, like Ethereum's a really expensive chain to explore on. Maybe I'll go on STARKNET, for example.
yeah.
So I think, you know, clicking has helped me so much. But I also think that feel free to use testnet or feel free to really invest in like a small amount of money. Maybe it's like $10 or $20, but really have skin in the game. Because
mm.
when you're like, yeah, I'm going to learn and I'm just going to watch YouTube videos, but you don't kind of follow through and actually use these protocols, you'll never really understand the user experience. Like you won't understand the pain of paying gas until you pay that gas fee.
Jeez. It still hurts.
Absolutely.
PTSD.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst is like you have to pay gas to like approve a transaction, and then you have to pay gas again to execute that transaction.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for reminding us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. So by the time this this video airs, Zend is going to be listed, right? Can you tell
Yes.
us about that?
Yeah. So, yeah, by the time this video is aired, Zen will be listed on both centralized exchanges as well as decentralized exchange. On centralized exchanges, will be listed on both Bybit and KuCoin. So users can deposit on L1 into KuCoin, and users can deposit from L2 into Bybit. And we'll also have a bridge available for users to kind of bridge the token between layer 1 and layer 2. But if you want to stay on chain, totally welcome to do so. And you'll be able to trade on the DEXs on STARKNET. And what that means is you can go on Yukubo, you can go on MySwap to trade. And I think there'll probably be a couple more pools live. But if you want best price execution, you can also go to an aggregator like Avenue, Fibrous, and they'll give you best execution across all the DEXs. So that's us. And hopefully by the time this airs, there'll be tons of liquidity and the trading experience will be very seamless.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Jane, it's, in building in the space is a mammoth task, and it's not easy. It's a lot of challenging, and there's a lot of stress that's involved. But finally, you guys are launching, or you launched as of yesterday, and we just want to wish you a successful journey, and may all your dreams come true. And we wish you the very best for the success of your project.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for all that you guys do. I think it's really awesome, this Crypto Dad community. I don't know if there's a Crypto Moms one out there, but I think like it's really great because I wish there was a community where I could learn crypto with someone. And for some reason, I didn't have that. And so being able to kind of like grow together is something that's quite cool. And you guys look out for one another. So congrats and kudos on doing this, guys.
Oh, thanks
Thank
a
you very
lot. And
much,
hey,
Jane.
we have plenty of moms in our community too. So
Yeah.
don't think it's just the dads. There's
keep
plenty
us
of
in check.
moms in there too. So
Nice.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today with Jane Ma from zkLend. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we're excited about your project. And guys, please don't forget to check out the alpha within this podcast, because it potentially could earn you some extra, either points or rewards or something like that. And also, guys, just please check the socials down below. We'll have all the details to zkLend inside.
thanks a lot, Jane. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you to the community. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye. The material and information presented in this recording are for entertainment purposes only. Do not misconstrue what you hear as investment or trading advice. Always do your own research. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed by the guests on this recording are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Dad's Gone Crypto or its hosts.